Cosplay runs are some of my favorite things to complete in the Souls series. Cosplay runs are when you try to beat a game as a character from the game, or just from anything in general. You could beat the game as Vike, a Ninja Turtle, or someone like Guts from Berserk. These runs are super fun as they set your equipment to a limit, but still help the players find new builds. For this video, I decided to beat the game as one of my favorite Elden Ring characters, otherwise known as Yura. The rules are simple. I can only use the equipment that Yura uses, I must complete Yura's questline, and I cannot summon anything because that just defeats the point of this run. Here's how it went. You can first find Yura in Limgrave. I recorded some footage in a different save file just to see his moveset. Now, I want to make something clear. I cannot obtain Yura's weapon until later in his questline, so I used the Uji Katana. This is the closest sword to the Nagahiba, which is the one that Yura gives you. It does the same bleed damage and has a similar moveset. I wouldn't use the Uji Katana for any bosses, and I would not upgrade it. I would only use it for Yura's questline until I get the Nagahiba. Then I remove the Uji Katana from my inventory. Anyways, for the first part of the game, Yura uses nothing but the Nagahiba. However, he unfortunately uses a different Ash of War, the thrust attack, or otherwise known as piercing feint, instead of the unsheathed attack that the Uji Katana has. This sucks because the original weapon's Ash of War is awesome, but I cannot use it on the Nagahiba. The good news is that the thrust attack Ash of War is already equipped in the Nagahiba when you receive it. The only other weapon I could use would be a dagger, because you can apply an Ash of War that you get in Yura's questline on it. But I'll cover that later in the video. There is a change in Yura's questline that I will talk about later, where he becomes Shibriri. This will change his moveset, but I will not use that moveset until I get to that part of the quest. You won't see this for a while because it does not occur until you reach the mountaintops of the giants, so I'll cover this later. Now for the actual run. I chose the samurai class because I get the Uji Katana with it, but I had to immediately unequip all other items that came with the class. I started the run by grabbing all necessary items I could get early game. I grabbed the first Dectus Medallion, Golden Seeds, lots of Sacred Tears, and the other half of the Dectus Medallion. I then grabbed a Golden Foul Foot and killed the dragon and Kaled to get a bunch of runes. I used these to level up my stats in order to be able to wield Yura's weapon when I get in the future. Now it's time to start Yura's actual quest. First you find him in an underpass near the first step Site of Grace. After speaking to him and hearing his worrying about the dragon and the lake nearby, you have to go and interact with the dragon. After getting demolished by the dragon, go speak to Yura again and he'll insult you by calling you a literal hothead. I had no idea that term was used in a game with a medieval theme. Okay, never mind. Now when you return to the dragon, you can summon Yura. But his summon sucks. He hardly attacks the dragon and just walks around the arena. This guy wouldn't even make an effort to run. The thing is, I had to kill this dragon to progress his questline. The dragon is easy with a horse, but without a horse it's surprisingly hard, and this summon disables your horse. It's nearly impossible to dodge the fire-breathing attacks if you're in the wrong spot, and this dragon loves to fly in the air and use them. But I kept hitting the dragon and somehow got a stagger. And after getting a critical hit, I insanely got lucky with a bleed proc. The funniest part is that Yura got the final hit to kill the boss. After the fight, I returned to Yura and got some actual peaceful dialogue from him. The next location to find Yura is during a PvP fight by the river in Limgrave. The PvP invader will invade you near Murkwater Cave, and he's actually sorta tough if you're underleveled. But Yura gets automatically summoned into the fight to assist you, and that makes this fight very easy. I was pretty worried though as Yura ran out of flasks and almost died. Right after the fight, you can find Yura in another nearby underpass. All this really does is unlock some additional dialogue from the character, reload the game, and he will be put back in his original spot with repeating dialogue. His questline is almost complete. I have to go to the Site of Grace right outside Rea Lucaria. Past the teleporter there's a red summon sign that will appear. As soon as I enter the fight, Yura is already in combat and I have to save him. I actually died once, but luckily you can keep invading the world until you win the fight. And the fight's really easy with Yura there. We both just bullied the invader. You get rewarded with the Raptors of Mist incantation. After the fight, Yura is found standing on the bridge muttering some weird stuff. I spoke to him and got a Smithing Stone 5, and then after I reloaded the area, he disappeared. Now there is only one more step to completing his questline. First though, I just wanted to show how to use the Raptor of Mist incantation. I made the rules allow me to use one dagger to equip the Ash of War because the Nagahiba already has an Ash of War equipped. This Ash of War is basically a dodge that is hard to time but very effective. You can even attack enemies with it. I didn't use it much because it's not very ideal to use during boss fights, but it was still nice to have. Now to finish Yura's questline. Yura is found lying at a church in the Altus Plateau. Speak with him and he just dies. It's sad, but the good news is I finally have access to the Nagahiba. After his death, Eleonora will invade you, but I'm too underleveled to kill her yet, so I'll come back to this. Also, now that I have the Nagahiba, I unequip the Uji Katana. I'll never use it again in the run. With Yura's side quest being done all the way until the mountaintops of the giants, I can actually play the game and beat some bosses. Before though, I grabbed the Dragon Crest Shield Tailsman. Now it's time for Margit. This would be an easy fight since I'm overleveled, so it's a great time to practice the Piercing Fane Ash of War. This Ash of War actually slaps. Nagahiba has an amazing range because it's so long, so I start the attack from far away, and then I still hit the target. This attack won't build up much bleed, but it's okay because it has insane damage. I beat Margit on my first try. With another Tailsman slot, I grabbed the Green Turtle Tailsman. Now I had to fight Godric. His first phase is pretty straightforward. The Piercing Fane Ash of War was a great choice for this fight because I could keep my distance and still hit him. However, I still wanted to be near him so when he uses his Whirlwind attack, he does the jump attack, which is easily punishable. Here's a really cool moment where I used Raptors of Mist to basically teleport through his attack without taking any damage. This was funny. I hardly even experienced the second phase. As soon as it started, I staggered him and then got a bleed to proc. After that, he died very quickly. Now it's time to fight that weird Remika Sith, aka the Red Wolf Radagon. This fight is pretty easy just because the boss has no HP whatsoever. Even though it can take a lot of dodges before finding an opening, it doesn't really matter because one attack deals at least a fifth of his overall HP. So I decided to just be patient and wait until I could punish the boss. On my first try, I killed him. Time to kill Renala. Her first phase is really self-explanatory and easy, but her second phase is a lot harder. But Renala can get cancelled out of a lot of her attacks very easily, so using Piercing Fane, once again, worked perfectly here. Until she pulled out her Spirit Asses. She became a lot harder to hit and teleported randomly. So I just used jump attacks until she died. Now I have to kill the Tree Sentinel in order to get access to the capital. This is probably one of my least favorite bosses in the game, not because he's extremely hard or anything. He's just very tanky and there's not that many openings for punishing attacks. I died quite a few times here. Finally, I decided to get some more preparation before this boss, so I killed Commander O'Neill to get the Dexterity Tailsman, and then I picked up the Strength Tailsman. When I fought this boss again, I realized how badly I was fighting him. I had enough time to use my Ash of War or any charged attack after his second swing. And this was all I needed. The boss was defeated in my first try after finding this out. The next boss was the ghost version of Godfrey, which is basically Godfrey's first phase except slower and has less damaging attacks. This fight is pretty easy if you just play it risky and tank some of his attacks. So that's what I did, despite having no armor on. I didn't take that much damage, and I staggered him twice in the fight, so this guy wasn't much of a big deal. I got him on my first try. This was the first time I fought Morgott and realized there are a lot more openings to deal damage than I originally thought. I didn't realize you could hit him after his dash attack and the vertical spin attack. So, despite my first few tries, Morgott wasn't such a hard boss. He loves to dash around the arena and spin random stuff to do as fast as he can, so being in lightweight helped a lot with this fight, along with the Green Turtle Tailsman. and after a few deaths, I activated Godric's Great Rune. During the fight, I used Piercing Pain only during the jump attack because that was the only time I could reliably get damage off it. I used the basic jump attack for any other openings. Oh, and this happened. You can't even see his HP. But after a while, he was defeated. With access to the mountaintops of the giants, this becomes an interesting part of the video. Yura's questline continues, kind of. It's confusion at first because just earlier in the video you saw Yura die. But a spirit of the frenzied flame, Shabriri, takes control of Yura's corpse. This unlocks us some new incantations. We see him use an unendurable frenzy, inescapable frenzy, and Hallow Shabriri. This is all he used when I fought him in a different world or save file, but I'm pretty sure he uses the normal Flame of Frenzy too, if anyone's curious. But for this video, I just grabbed the other 3 incantations that it listed. Shabriri wants us to claim the Flame of Frenzy, so that's exactly what I was going to do. Before going to that location, though, I had to complete as much of Hayata's questline as I could. I wanted the Frenzy Seal to use the incantations on because it boosts those type of incantations. But I won't lie, I mostly only use these incantations for NPC fights because otherwise they're pretty much worthless unless you're using a faith build. You have to kill a variant of Moog before you can get access to the Flame of Frenzy. His attacks are pretty basic and he's much easier than the actual Moog, but this guy can still be a challenge. Moog's Shackle can let me hit him with Piercing Pain 3 times, and I can use this twice, so that wipes out nearly a third of his total HP. I also got 2 staggers during the fight, so this guy wasn't too hard for me to beat. I got the Flame of Frenzy and grabbed the Frenzied Seal. Because I claimed the Flame of Frenzy, when returning to Shabriri's spot, I can now get Yura's armor. It's a great set that doesn't weigh too much while having lots of poise. His questline isn't over yet. We will still see him again later in this video. Before fighting Fire Giant, I killed the Putrid Avatar for the Opaline Heart tier. But I couldn't kill Fire Giant yet. I still had to grab the Unendurable Frenzy incantation. This sucked because I knew I would never use this, but I had to get the item to complete the Shabriri cosplay. And in order to get access to this incantation, I had to get to the concentrated snowfield. And to do that, I had to kill Commander Niall. His fight was one of the hardest fights in this run. Luckily I can use Bewitching Branches to make the 2 banished knights he spawned fight each other and not me. This will make the fight between me and Commander Niall only. This is still challenging because he's not an easy boss to kill. Here's how that went. With Commander Niall defeated, I was finally able to get the Unendurable Frenzy incantation. With this done, I can finally fight Fire Giant. I decided to use a normal strategy for this fight. If I keep hitting the boss with slash attacks, then I could get Bleed to proc in the second phase. This was easy. I fought this boss enough to the point where the first phase is fun and quick. It's the second phase that's rough. This part isn't the worst if you're careful, but you just deal a lot less damage, which is why the bleed proc would be helpful. The only attack that would most likely kill me is the fire breathing attack, but if I could just avoid it, then I could kill the boss. Finally I got the bleed to proc, and it was pretty much game over from there. I burnt the Erdtree and arrived at Fair Missoula. Godskin Duo is next. This boss is not as bad as people say if you just use sleep pots. The first run was going well until I found out you actually need FP to use sleep pots, and I had spent all of it on my Ash of War. But the next round, I brought some FP flasks and it made the fight very easy. I didn't run out of sleep pots until the very end, but I was able to win regardless. After the fight, I grabbed the Shard of Alexander, which is one of the best tailspins, and will increase the damage of Piercing Fang. Next was Malekith. I feel like this boss gets more fun every time I defeat him. The first phase is really easy, especially since I staggered him fairly quickly into the fight. The damage I got from that got him all the way to the second phase. In the beginning of phase 2, I staggered him again somehow, but it didn't really matter because the spot where you get the critical hit was inside one of the arena walls, which was honestly hilarious. It didn't matter. The tailspin made my Ash of War so strong I was able to defeat the boss not long after. Now I had to kill Gideon, who's one of the easiest bosses in the game. This is one of those rare times I used one of Shabriri's incantations, and it was absolutely hilarious. Now you might think it's time for Godfrey. There is even a summon sign for Shabriri in this fight. Killing Godfrey would end his questline and leave me with just one boss left in the game. But I didn't want to beat the game as Shabriri. I wanted to beat the game as Yura. And how would I do this? By getting rid of the Frenzied Flame. Earlier in the video I never mentioned the fact that I had been completing Millicent's questline. You need to do this to get a needle that allows your character to kill the Frenzied Flame, but this would require me to kill Melania. Before that, I had to kill Loretta anyways, so here's how that went. I only beat this boss one time, and it was with the summon, so I thought this fight was going to be very challenging. Fortunately, she isn't too bad at a fight. I died multiple times, but every time it got a little easier as I learned her moveset. She has multiple openings or options to trade health. Overall, this fight is pretty fun, and not too much of a hassle. Okay, so it's time for Melania. And I'll have to admit the most embarrassing thing ever. Despite this game being out for almost a year, I've only beaten this boss one time. And it was with the summon. So my goal was to at least beat the first phase of this fight. If I couldn't beat the second one, I would call in a summon. This is only because I was originally leaving town for a while when I was filming this, and I just wanted to get all the footage done. And I won't lie, the first phase is not so bad. This is because Piercing Fang lets me get an attack from further away, and this will result in her just walking and taking it. She would progressively attack more and more as the fight continued, but it wasn't too bad, learning her moves to the point where I could at least dodge most of the attacks without dying. After, I summoned an insane and pretty funny summon. His or her name was simply Wolf, and I found that hilarious. The other was a Holy Knight and had an amazing build. Both of these people are amazing and deserve lots of credit. This was my first time ever summoning anyone, and it was pretty fun. But the self-conscious of Yura started to take over as Melania finally died. Now all I had to do was go to a location in Fair Missoula and stab myself with the needle, officially killing the Frenzied Flame. The only difference is that I keep the burn marks and have to get rid of all the madness incantations or anything I acquired when I became Shibriri, but otherwise I can be Yura again and require any ending. And because of that, earlier I had started to think of what ending Yura would get, and he's a character who despises most evil tarnished, meaning he would most likely support the Golden Order, so the H Order seemed to fit the best. So before burning the archery, I actually completed a lot of Brother Corrin's quest and the Golden Masks questline to get the ending. But I still had 2 bosses left, and now as Yura, I could summon Shibriri and fight side by side with him. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Yeah, turns out if you get rid of the Frenzied Flame, then his summon sign disappears. Oh well, I could beat this boss by myself. I ended up getting him on my second try. He's an amazing and fun fight when you become familiar with his moveset. Here's how that went. Now for the last fight of the game. This is one fight I like to say nothing about. Enjoy watching Yura become Elden Lord. I want to thank anyone who stayed all the way to the end of this video. I had a super fun time making it, and I can't wait to make more videos in the future. If there's any other character in Elden Ring that you would like me to beat the game as, write it down in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.